My, what manner of place is this? A path to redemption? Or a road to damnation? Hard to say, for your journey is just beginning. What would suit the occasion? The words to a lullaby, perhaps. The mouse smiled brightly. It outfoxed the cat. Then down came the claw. And that, love, was that.
Welcome to episode 62 of the video game podcast, PlayStation Pals. I'm your host, Nick, and I'm joined by the Saga Anderson to my Alan Wake, Jon. Did you know, Jon, today is National Video Game Day?
No, I didn't. That's a good little palate cleanser after the day that the United States goes through every year, yesterday being 9/11. So that's good. That's a good little bright spot to bring into the world, I think.
Yeah, I think not to be confused with Video Game Day, which is June 8th.
What?
National Video Game Day.
Oh.
Whatever excuse you have to tell your other that I am supposed to play video games all day, that is...
Well, if it's national and we live in the United States, that means it's only for people that live in the United States then, right? That's what national typically means.
To be honest, if you tell your spouse that it is in your country and it is even in September 12th, that's fine with me. Whatever excuse you have,
sure. Just
make sure they don't Google it.
Can Jesse let us know if they have a National Video Game Day?
They're probably, well, in New Zealand, maybe. I don't know.
I'm sure it's all everywhere.
Every day is a Hallmark holiday.
I'm just a dumb idiot.
So
that's true. I remember I used to go on like back in, I don't know, high school or college, and like what's the national whatever day? It's National Chocolate Milkshake Day, and then you go get a chocolate milkshake, and then what's today? Today's National
all marketing.
Oh yeah. These calendar companies, they're corrupt.
Yeah,
tell you.
Yeah, exactly. They're in leagues with all the corporations.
Yep.
All right. So it hasn't been a very long time since we last recorded, but we're doing the format now. This is how the show works. We each can bring up to 3 things to talk about for a maximum of 6 things. It can be a video game we're playing, a news item, an email to PlayStationPalsPod@gmail.com, a Twitter DM at PSPalsPod, or a comment on our YouTube page at PlayStation Pals. Any of those things, we want to talk about it, we'll bring it. Today we got 4 things for you, which is pretty good considering it hasn't been that long since we last recorded.
Yep.
And I'm going to kick things off because, it's September and it's time for State of Play rumors. Our favorite thing. So even though it is very obviously going to be a State of Play coming up for probably Spider-Man 2.
Right.
So anyone, can predict this. But of course, Jeff Grubb says something.
Good old Jeff
Everyone
Grubb.
on the internet starts freaking out. And here we are, everyone's like on red alert for a State of Play. But I want to start off with, Jon, do you remember the State of Play that happened a year ago in September?
The only State of Play I feel like I can remember was the Final Fantasy 16 one.
No, that was earlier this year.
Okay. So let's see, last fall release was God of War, so it had to be in Ragnarok.
Yeah, Ragnarok was in it. Yeah, okay. That's where we got the big story trailer and the reveal of the DualSense, the God of War Ragnarok DualSense.
I don't think I've ever seen one of those in the wild. Think about it. No, I don't know. I don't know what else was there. I'm sure God of War and Kratos dominated my brain.
Sure. It ended on that. So, yeah. But if you remember, this was an interesting day because it was a Nintendo Direct the same day as well versus the State of Play. So you kind of got a weirdly head-to-head day of showcases. But this is where we got Tekken 8's announcement.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Where we
I remember this one now. Yeah, it was the very first thing they showed.
Yeah, and then we got Like a Dragon Ishin announced, Sin Duality, if you remember that.
Sin Duality?
It's like it's a Bandai Namco game with a little girl riding a robot.
Did it come out yet?
No, it has not come out yet.
Okay, all right.
We got also Stellar Blade, which we got the official name. It used to be Project Eve.
Very Japanese state of
And
play.
this is also where we got the announcement of Rise of Ronin.
Pretty good one.
Yeah.
Pretty good state of play.
Do you think that? Because you were pretty down on this one, if you remember. This is also
Was I?
where we got Pacific Drive
Uh,
and the VR stuff, Galaxy Edge, Demio.
yeah. I mean, I'm a pessimist by nature, so listeners may have picked up on that. But no, I mean, I'm sure it was something in the moment where I was like, I just want God of War. Let me play God of War. Everything else can
Right.
go away. Go away. I don't care about Rise of Ronin, even though it's probably going to be awesome when it comes out. So, yeah, maybe in hindsight, it seems a little bit nicer than I felt in the moment. But
Yeah. When you
not
think
bad.
of those games, it was definitely a meteor state of
I mean,
play.
I think that's just probably an exact, answer to how we hype ourselves up and how we flood our
Yeah,
brains with these dumb things, and then it doesn't happen, and you go, brah, Jim Ryan, I hope you die, but it's just no.
Well, to be fair, at this time too, we thought we were getting a showcase, and we still at this point.
That's
were on
true.
a-
This
a
was
big- a big showcase dry spell.
Yeah.
So we thought that. So this was in place of that, and obviously, a state of play is not the same as
No.
a showcase. But so that leads us now into the rumors now, and now I'm going to ask you this. We'll lead with this.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there will be a state of play in September?
Yeah, I'm gonna go last week of September.
Okay, last week.
That's where I'm gonna. Yeah, I think it's going to be very much in that same vein of the last September's state of play. We're gonna get a big meaty Spider-Man thing at the end of it with some games leading into it. I think typically if memory serves me correctly, when Sony does these state of plays, they're typically about 3 to 4 weeks before the release of the big game that they want to do it for. When I think of Horizon, God of War, Ragnarok. Ragnarok obviously was a little bit earlier. If memory serves me, that was a November game, so that one was a little bit earlier. But
And the FF16 one was earlier too.
yeah, but I feel like with Spider-Man, it's such a known quantity, and they don't really have to. And it's going to sell no matter what. That game is going to probably break, without if there was as many PS5s in the wild as there were PS4s, this game would no question break all the sales records. But I still think it has a chance to do that. But I think we get a little bit closer to the date. Let some of the hype of Starfield die down a little bit. Let Cyberpunk, Phantom Liberty, maybe during that same time. I don't think you're gonna have to worry too much about that, being that it is DLC anyway. And just kind of hit that front-facing right in front of October type time period, so that people are thinking about it throughout the whole month.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that's exactly what's going to happen. Is we'll get a state of play later this month for, definitely with the highlight, the same playbook as last year's. Like the ending will be Spider-Man 2 and probably be some little teases of more villains as well. But outside of the obvious Spider-Man 2. I mean, most of those games I just mentioned are not out.
Mm-hmm.
None of those Japanese games outside of the Like a Dragon Ishin are out. But what do you think could be in this one on top of Spider-Man?
Selfishly, I'm fucking praying for Mina the Hollower to just kind of show up to somebody, tell me when that game's going to come out. If Hollow Knight wasn't at Microsoft's thing last time, I would maybe throw that in there. That seems like it could be ready. We need to have a date on it. It was interesting listening to Sacred Symbol. Colin Moriarty is like, yeah, that game's coming out this year. Like, he was confident in that. Like, it was weird. I almost felt like I should have wrote a letter in and be like, are you sure? It just doesn't seem like it is. We would have had some info by now. But, the remaining games of the year, we got Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. There's obviously a Sony marketing deal with that game. So, you could maybe squeeze in another small trailer in there. But, it is a bigger game, so they're probably, not going to want to put too many huge things in there to detract from Spider-Man's presence. So I expect a little bit smaller properties when it comes to that, Like a Dragon, The Man Who Erased His Name, things of that scope maybe. I'm just trying to think of what else is coming out in, November-y time periods. Or, I'm sorry, not November-y. Like November-y time periods. And what am I missing?
Modern Warfare, for sure. There'll probably be, some beta announcement as far as Modern Warfare 3. Because there's still, thick as thieves.
Yep.
Between Sony and Activision.
I mean, we could see a return of Rise of Ronin. I'm pretty sure Sony's not adverse to putting games in there twice, and
no, it hasn't been shown since.
It hasn't been shown since. It initially had an early 2024 release date, which could be stretched out to March, April, if they really wanted to. But
yeah, and people are and on Twitter, people seem to think because Stellar Blade announced its product page about a physical PS5 release and that they're going to have more news coming. Granted, Tokyo Game Show, the big showcase in Japan, is coming, so a lot of the Eastern style games will be there. It could also be there, not necessarily in the state of play, but since it was shown, it's been Stellar Blade has been so heavy Sony, it's been shown there every time. It has some kind of state of play that it's likely. It's a good guess.
That is a good guess. I think, after talking this through, Sony would have to start being worried about running the risk of having it be too similar to last year, though. Coming off the backs of the showcase, which, people weren't happy with, right? We weren't happy with. I think, it would be a bad look to then come out with the next thing and you're like, hey, here's all these games that we talked about last year at the same exact time with really no new updates except for dates. So, there will have to be something in there. But I almost guarantee it's something we're not even thinking about. One question that I would have, though, is will VR be there at all? We need We need more VR things.
It has to be. There has to be games this fall or this winter, fall/winter, that they have to highlight, right?
Yeah.
There can't be just
maybe that's the angle they take with this state of play. Is like, look, we're going to focus on Spider-Man, and then the other main focus is VR because we need to push that. Because PS5s are selling better than ever. They're outpacing PS4. They don't really need to push this thing that hard, right?
No.
Spider-Man's going to do a crazy amount of pushing, and then I have, it's getting to the scary point, but I do have faith that Sony has a pretty robust calendar for next year. The only thing we really know is Wolverine was slated for 2024, but I wouldn't be surprised to see that get pushed out. But Sony doesn't have years that go by without 2 or 3 big releases, and we'll see.
Well, not to derail too far, but on another podcast, Rebel FM, one of the guys there thinks that Sony's up for a drought because they've been so front heavy for so long, with like you mentioned, with 2 to 3 big games a year that eventually will catch up to them, and being how we don't really know outside of the live service offerings. Which we got very little of those, so it's unlikely that they could be even out next year, that we're going to be in some kind of Sony first-party drought going into 2024.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, going through the teams that are, Guerrilla already went. Santa Monica's not going to be ready yet. Insomniac is a long shot.
They have that DLC that's rumored.
Yeah, DLC, you could probably get by with having 1 year that is like an expansion type. Miles Morales is counted as a big game for them that year, especially if it's in the God of War universe. Yeah, it's definitely possible. We don't know what Blue Point's doing. That's a team that Sony owns now. Again, I wouldn't like.
Yeah.
Insomniac's game, I could see it go either way. They've done Black Magic in the past. I don't know how they've been able to get games out as quickly as they have with as high quality as they are. But yeah, that's possible. That's possible.
Yeah. Well, if there are DLC plans for Spider-Man 2, then I would say that's less likely to get Wolverine. But yeah, like you said, they are voodoo.
Well, I just think of the Firewalks and Fire Sprites and like those teams too. And it's like, I'm a PlayStation Uber fan, but I feel like I'm never thinking of those teams and what they're doing, or Sony London, or I know Sony London, they did like what was that VR game, Blood and Truth, and they're a VR team. At least one of them that likes to explore that space, but. That's why Sony, I think, has been so good, though. They've been so good with their third-party relationships as well. Third-party relationships where they're getting exclusivity, whether the teams want to put their games on PlayStation, like Final Fantasy 16, or simply because games don't sell on Xbox, and so developers just kind of make games for PlayStation. So, it's. I don't think we're going to be eating as good as we have in the past, but I still feel comfortable playing where I play.
Okay. Yeah, and then getting back on the state of play, just very briefly. We talked about it last week, the PlayStation Plus tier price increase. Would they make people feel better and maybe throw us a bone as far as a bigger game, possibly, like I'm saying, like a Yakuza, the Man Who Erased His Name, being like day and date on extra?
Yeah, that's that would go a long way with people.
Do you think it's likely that they would, and that it would be highlighted at a state of play, or not just a blog post a la Sea of Stars?
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of don't think so because I think a lot of these deals when they get made, they happen a lot further in advance than it would from like now until then. You know, these corporations are huge, right? They think in months and years, not necessarily weeks. So, you know, maybe they already had something in development. You know, obviously they knew they were going to raise their prices when they did. They knew that these things were going to come. So I would be shocked if they didn't have their pipeline and calendar in order in that regard.
But we didn't know about Sea of Stars till a month ahead.
For sure. No, for sure. You know, it's possible. I don't know. I kind of get a vibe from this announcement that Sony is kind of just like, it is what it is, guys. Like, you know, putting it at the end of the blog post and just like, hey guys, you know, we know the industry's heading this way. Other companies might not be willing to admit it to you yet or whatever, but like it's going this way, and we're just
like
gonna
the price increase.
We're just gonna get ahead of it
on the hardware itself.
Yeah, so
we're not doing that.
We did.
We're doing it. So.
Yeah, so I don't know. I kind of expect more status quo. I would have thought it more likely that when they announced the price increase that month's PS Plus was just awesome, but nah.
No. Yeah, maybe next month, maybe October.
Yeah, so I don't know. Do you think that they're gonna put a bigger one?
Oh, like bigger games on it?
Well, I mean, like give us either give us do something to try and soften the blow from the price increase.
It's possible. I would hope so. At least the indie games. I know they've been featuring the Devolver game a lot. The Wizard with a Gun?
Wizard with a Gun, yeah.
They've been featuring that game a lot, but again, no official announcement. I just going back to a point that you made previously is like on Xbox, games don't sell, so a lot of publishers are willing to go, yeah, I'll just take the Game Pass money.
Yeah.
You know, but on PlayStation, at least as of right now, it looks like games do sell. So, you know, Sea of Stars being an outlier, but I mean, how many day and date games have we really gotten? You know, it's like Sea of Stars, Chia,
Stray.
Yeah, like there really isn't. I think
there's
there's
3.
No, we missed the Humanity.
Oh yeah.
As well. So you know, in over a year, we've only gotten 4 games, so it's unlikely. But it's just a thought I might have had because, you know, again, that price just increased, and you know,
yeah.
would be great to throw us a bone, you know. Even a game like I said, Like a Dragon is probably perfect. Digital only already, smaller title. You know, it's not a mainline Yakuza or Like a Dragon.
They obviously have a relationship with Sega.
Yeah.
I mean, every single Yakuza game's on the service already.
Yeah.
So just give us all the Metal Gear Solid games that are coming out. Just do that.
Yeah, the Metal Gear Solid collection as well would be a nice little bone to throw. But again, like I mentioned, I just think, you know, games right now are selling on Sony's platform. The hardware is selling like crazy. Publishers are just, you know, they're not afraid to eventually be on those services, but up front, it's like, why do I need to take the money?
I wonder if Sabotage is kind of not mad that they took, you know, some of this money. I think Game Pass, you know, again, regardless, it's not going to sell over there, but I wonder because, you know, they're swimming in money over there. They get 250,000 copies sold. You know, plus all the money from PlayStation, Microsoft that they got up front. So I think they said 250,000 copies was what they expected to sell within a year, and they did it in a week. So, you know, kudos to them. But, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know.
No, we'll be excited. I'm, you know, state of plays obviously can be hit or miss, but at least it's exciting. You'll see something, you know, and even if it is just more Spider-Man 2, which again, I know you said you're already sold on, you know, I've already put my money where my mouth is on that game, but you know, I wouldn't mind seeing it.
My excitement for that game is it's like, you know, it's like what do they call those exponential graphs, right? Where it starts like low and then it just gets really steep really. I feel like I'm on one of those where like I didn't care until like a week ago, and then like I saw actually it's kind of funny, I told you this yesterday, but I bought the new Across the Spider-Verse 4K. You know, great movie. If you haven't seen those, they're incredible. But I put the disc in, and you know, like the little play movie main menu icon on the bottom of the screen came up, but then it just immediately went into a PS5 advertisement for Spider-Man 2. And like I had my sound system cranked and like all that good stuff, and then when Venom's voice came on and said, you know, like that Tony Todd gross voice, I was like, oh my god, like I got shivers. And you know, and all this hype that's coming out from people saying that people aren't ready for what they've done. It's the best Insomniac work ever. Sorry to derail this conversation into a Spider-Man 2 talk, but yeah, it's gonna be
well, again, if the state of play is coming, for sure Spider-Man 2 will be in it in some form. So.
Yes.
So, but all right, we'll see.
Cool.
Hopefully we'll have an announcement very soon.
Yes.
All right. So
Well,
let's move on.
In as the resident Xbox fan on the show, even though that kind of felt gross coming out of my mouth as I said it.
No, that's true.
But Nick would say that is very true. I wanted to talk, Nick, a little bit about Starfield. I think anybody who's been on the internet over the past week has kind of been inundated with just the amount of people that are playing this game, discussion around it, positives, negatives, things like that. But just a kind of a basic conversation on how the game's doing, where it's sitting on OpenCritic, what people are saying about it, and just kind of want to go over our overall thoughts there. So Starfield's currently sitting at a 87 on OpenCritic with 133 reviews, which I believe is what I predicted. I'm just going to throw that out. And it has 89% of critics recommend rating. To compare that to previous Bethesda software games, you got Fallout 4 that had an 88 score with 90% critics recommended, so like pretty much exactly the same, right? Skyrim wasn't on OpenCritic because it came out too long ago, but that received a 96. And then the ill-fated, horribly received Fallout 76 was at a 53, but we kind of don't include that game. So as you can see, this is pretty par for the course with what Bethesda gives us. But I did kind of notice something a little interesting when I started to look through the reviews. And so I was looking at the notable outlets that reviewed the game. And so obviously biggest publication in the world, IGN, gave it a 7 out of 10, which is okay. So a 7 out of 10 in nowadays games doesn't mean, it's usually this is a good game, not anything more than that. There's going to be a lot of issues that we have.
The internet will treat that as a bad game.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if you talk to the guy who wrote the review, Dan Stapleton, he'd be like, "No, I liked it." But if in today's internet society,
do you know what he's famous for?
Dan Stapleton?
What the other review he's famous for?
I think you told me the other day, and I forgot.
So he reviewed the original, or not the original, but Prey, the Arcane game.
Was he the one that said he didn't finish it?
Yes, because he ran into a bug that borked his save, and he refused to let the developers fix it for him, and so he just said he reviewed it as is, and
wow,
they stuck by it.
That's some childish shit. They refused the.
I mean, that was his experience. I guess what are you gonna say? But
if you're reviewing a game and you owe it to the consumer to give your thoughts on, hey, this is what happened to me, in a pre-release environment. Yeah, I guess if they come in and be like, no, we can fix it. It's no, fuck off. So I get that, but he said. He said. Starfield has a lot of forces working against it, but eventually the allure of its expansive role-playing quests and respectable combat makes its gravitational pull difficult to resist. Similarly, PC Gamer gave it a 75, GameSpot gave it a 7 out of 10, Game Informer gave it an 8.5. But again, as you heard me say in the top of this, it's sitting at an 87. So there are a lot of 10 out of 10s out there too. And I don't think it's exclusive to a Bethesda game, but this game is definitely divisive. It's definitely catching people and I think making a lot of people realize what do I enjoy about video games and what is the reason that I want to play this. And so you get two schools of people. I just want to explore. I just want to go see things. And then you get other people that no, I want a dense, rich world. I want a tight narrative with interesting systems. And I think those two people are coming head to head a little bit.
Well, and there's also the fact that it's an Xbox exclusive. That is.
So yeah, console wars are inherently going to play into it.
Well, not just even from a console wars standpoint. Is also there's been a drought of good games. Hi-Fi Rush notwithstanding, the last big game was Halo Infinite in 2021, which reviewed similar to this, and then
what about Redfall?
No, yeah, well, yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah, we all know what happened with Redfall, but the last kind of pretty hyped game, I think. Just a really hyped, and again, as you mentioned, you had Redfall, you had this drought of first-party content from Microsoft, so it's got kind of a lot more weight on its shoulders.
It's under a microscope.
Than a typical, okay, this is the third game this year type of release for Microsoft, and they've all been hits, and this has been a steady thing. It's we've had this drought. Hey, and it is a Bethesda game too. These are the makers of Skyrim, like you said, one of the greatest games of all time, easily.
Yep.
So it's this, and they only released games so many years. I mean, Fallout 4 was what, 2015?
Yes.
So you're talking, you got all these things into play here. So it's not just what people are going into it and expecting. But though I do think that is part of the divisiveness was the expectations, and I don't know are you gonna go where you were gonna take that? But are you gonna go into like the free roam part that people are divisive on?
We can. I mean, go for it, man. Get right into it.
So one of the divisive things about the game right now is the free roaming, that it just doesn't exist. So in typical Bethesda games, you're kind of set loose, go in a direction, and you tell interesting stories. Skyrim has those interesting stories, but they're gated between planets, which are gated between load screens. And the game is not intended for you to get in your ship, fly off a planet, drive yourself, fly to another planet, land it, and leave. All that is done by loads. So not like No Man's Sky, which does provide that. So I think a lot of people's expectations watching the gameplay were that it was going to be that they could go anywhere and do anything. And when, even before it came out, that you could wander a planet and you could hit a border.
Yeah.
And that kind of, negative reaction to that. And again, this is the internet. I'm sure 90% of people are playing this game and having a great time, but the vocal people on the internet are going to are pointing out the flaws, and I know this is a big one. Is just a lot of load screens.
That's exactly what I was kind of going to point out is the way that I kind of feel like it's, to break it down, is just exploration doesn't feel organic like it does in those other games. And that's just due to the inherent nature of the fast travel system. You can never truly feel like you're lost. And, when you think of what open world games have become in the time that Bethesda has kind of established themselves as this one of the largest in this genre, is that we are kind of, I feel like we were having this conversation when Fallout 4 came out, where, The Witcher 3 just came out and really showed what RPGs are capable of doing. And it kind of made Bethesda look dumb with some of their things. And I think we're kind of seeing a similar thing again, where, it's not enough anymore just to go do a raid, go find a raid camp thing, clear the camp, get a treasure, go to another planet, do it again. For some people, that is a 10 out of 10 experience, and I respect that. But when games like Elden Ring and Breath of the Wild and stuff have come out, expectations increase a little bit. And I will give it to Microsoft. I think when they showed off this game, they were very clever in the way that they did it. And I think of one specific scene, and I think the first trailer they showed for it, and that was with the laser gun mining rocks thing, right? The No Man's Sky, you shoot the laser at the rocks, they break apart, you mine the resource. I don't know if this was intentional or not, and I might be stealing this from Kyle Bossman. I can't remember if he made this point, but I liked it. And it was that immediately made us go, oh, okay, it's No Man's Sky. And so we thought, well, we can fly our ships anywhere. We can do those same things because we saw that it was so on point with what that was. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it kind of got us to get hyped about it, started our minds to go, well, what could this whole thing possibly be? And it's not to say that Bethesda, didn't meet expectations or let people down. I think they delivered on what they needed to, but it inherently feels a little bit bad when you can't reach those heights that you were hoping to. Even if what's there is good, even what there is fulfilling, and I can sink my teeth into it and I can spend a ton of time in this world, inherently it starts to lose this luster after you've traveled to 75 planets, and what do you have besides just better guns or whatnot. Sorry, I know I'm rambling, but one last thing that I wanted to say is, and I found this interesting, is I went into a Reddit thread that was okay guys, with 100 systems and 1,000 planets to explore, what's the coolest thing you've seen? And I was like, oh, let me see, what are some of these stories? And this is kind of what I found. So there's a lot of people that are saying there's apparently a derelict casino out there that's really cool. And okay, I could see that being fun.
Yeah, I've heard about that. It's a space station.
Yeah.
So it's 0G.
So that's cool. I could see that being cool. But then the other top answers that I saw was, I found a teacher and class of kids on a field trip, I guess. The kids were asking questions in the background, and the teacher asked for ship parts to fix their ship. I didn't have any, so I guess they're still floating out there, haha. And then the next one, they have the Kennedy Space Center launch pad ruins if you land near Cape Canaveral. I was really surprised by this. Or, got stopped by a doctor who was on a geological survey and asked if I had any spare rocks. I didn't. She bid me farewell and warned me to stay clear of her grav drive as it was old. I expected it to explode, but further 10 seconds she starts talking and starts to tell me a joke. After another 10 to 15 seconds, she gets to the punchline of the joke, and then she drove away, and I never got the punchline. And it's these little moments can be cool, but that's not enough to really lead you to want to continue to explore this galaxy or this solar system that they've crafted. So, but that's not to say this game's horrible. You know, I think people are really pleased to see.
Well, we haven't played it.
No, I know we haven't played it, but like what the reviewers are saying, I mean, it's the whole point of this conversation, right? What people are saying, and they say the gunplay is above what you think it would be. You know, with Fallout, gunplay feels really bad, so that's done. You know, been improved, but I think it's just going to kind of be this game that when we look back on it, it's going to kind of be a game of I wishes. I wish it did this. I wish it did that. You know, I'm not sure.
Well,
that's kind of the sense I
mean,
get.
a Bethesda game will only get better, like because of the community involvement, because they'll fix a lot of things. I've heard the UI is not good. You're spending a lot of time in menus managing resources, and it's just not very intuitive. And of course, you know, your ship, you can only carry so many resources, and you got to throw them on your ship, and it's just all convoluted. But I think, like, it's just like I said, I think the internet focuses on the negative things, but I think a lot of people are loving this game. Again, it's one of the biggest launches for Bethesda. I don't know if you've been following Greg Miller on Twitter.
No.
He's been going crazy. He is on his 5th playthrough.
What?
Yeah, he's beat the game 5 times. And I think a lot of people and a lot of stories are a lot of stories in the game, like the side quests themselves. I think the main story has kind of been mixed, but like the side quests themselves, I've heard a lot of good things about.
Oh, I've heard the main story gets better in New Game Plus somehow.
Yeah, there's a story conceit for that.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people are still having fun, and it is a Bethesda game, just, you know, with sans exploration, and like take that as far as you want. Like if you like Bethesda games previously, and not expecting, you know. This game, I'm going to steal now Video Game Donkey, who's like, it looks like Fallout 3, it sounds like Fallout 3, it's not Fallout 3, but it is Fallout 3.
It plays like Fallout 3.
Yeah, it plays like Fallout 3. It has, you know, you don't have the VATS and stuff, but, you know, the same things that we were concerned about over a year ago, like the same Bethesda talking, and the dead animations and all that stuff is still there. But I think there's a lot of fun to be had, and I think, like, an 87 is nothing to scoff at.
No, it's very good. No, it's very good.
It's one of the best reviewed games of the year. It'll probably get some kind of Game of the Year nod.
Yeah,
I can imagine, because it just seems like, you know, the people that are attached to it really, really attached to it. Yeah. And you know, when we were first watching reviews, I was like, maybe this is not for me. But I also played every Bethesda game before this.
Same.
If this was on PlayStation,
yeah,
I probably would play it. Probably not right now, but eventually, because there's just so many games. But in a vacuum, if this was on PlayStation, in 87, I'm playing this game.
Yeah.
So,
no, I think you're absolutely right. This is a very, very good example of it being a game where you need to kind of understand yourself as a gamer a little bit, and if you will enjoy it or not. Like, you're right. Like, a Bethesda game inherently for me is fun. Like, it's just. You know, I've seen these. I'm sure you've seen them as well. These dumb things on the internet of people like, I have to steal this bottle, but I can't pick it up because then it'll alert them. So like, they just take the physics of another object and like start pushing it around and like put it into a basket and then push that basket out the door and it works. And it's like, that stuff is cool. Like, the amount of interactivity is literally. I don't think there is a more interactive game out there, just in terms of the sheer amount of things you can interact, pick up, push, whatever.
Right.
You know, so that has to definitely be applauded,
and that's part of Bethesda tradition.
Of course,
I think that's one of their things.
That's what they do, and I'm sure like the leveling up is crazy. You know, it was really fun in Skyrim. I'm gonna increase my sneak ability by just crouching. I'm gonna increase my bow ability by just using my bow, and so, you know, the game rewards you for just kind of playing the way you want to, and you know, there's a ton of fun to be had. I want games not to be 150 hours.
Well, a lot of people are going to disagree with you on that.
I know. They're all idiots.
But also a curious thing about this game, too, is it, you know, surprisingly, you know, is releasing between, you know, Baldur's Gate 3, which is, you know, probably Game of the Year.
Yep.
And then also Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty, which is, you know, a very similar game, but doing a lot, enhancing the story. You know, a lot better. You know, characters emote and better animation. It's not all this stiff stuff. Granted, Starfield is doing all the ships and planets, and again, you can gather 20,000 potatoes and put it on a ship. That's not something you can do in Cyberpunk. But do you think if this game came out, like say last year, like it was originally going to, do you think that review score would be bumped up a bit? But because reviewers just came off of Baldur's Gate 3 and are now playing this game, are they like, well, look at them, look at this other game that I'm playing.
Yeah, it's interesting because Baldur's Gate 3 originally moved their date up to get out of the way of Starfield, and like I feel like it actually did Starfield a favor. Like if it came out right next to it, I don't know if that would have been good.
Right.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question? I just derailed myself.
Yeah, no. If Starfield released last year,
Yeah.
like it was originally intended, and wasn't surrounded by big RPGs, and just not even just that fact that it's between Baldur's Gate and Phantom Liberty, which I'm assuming Phantom Liberty will also be incredible.
Yeah.
But just this year in general of video games is insane. That if Starfield came out last year and it was, let's just say sandwiched between God of War Ragnarok and Elden Ring, and again, it would have been the only exclusive for Microsoft that year.
Yeah.
Would things be different? And people wouldn't be able to look at Baldur's Gate at the time. Would the review score be higher? Would we be talking about it differently?
I think the review score would stay very, very close to what it is. The reason I say that is I feel like reading the review scores, it's a very transparent how people feel about this game, where the scores are either 10 out of 10, this is the best shit ever, I can't put it down, or 7 out of 10, it's got good stuff in there, but it's old, it's dated, and I just get bored with it. And I don't think those two stances would get shifted very much by another game around it. I think Baldur's Gate would have clearly showed people that like the narrative side is lacking on the Bethesda thing. But like when I look at the reviews and I look at the scores, they might mention like the narrative's not great, but like 10 out of 10 because I can go do whatever I want, or it's just like everything's kind of meh, and I like it a little bit. So I don't think it would have shifted much. I think if anything, Starfield kind of benefited from Baldur's Gate moving up. Yeah.
I don't know. I like you said. I think the Bethesda formula is getting tired, but just very slightly because they don't come out enough. So that's why you're kind of seeing less return on the review since 12 years ago in 2011 of Skyrim to Fallout 4 till this is I think a lot of people are just fatigued, and Bethesda needs to up their game as far as an engine standpoint and stuff. So yeah, I'm with you. It kind of maybe it'd be like an 89.
Yeah. I kind of view the people who dig these kind of games almost like the people who dig like Assassin's Creed, right? So Assassin's Creed for a while was coming out every single year, and there was groups of people that were fucking stoked about that. They were like, yeah, this is my shit. I'm down. Like, let's go 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. I love these games.
And I was playing them at a pretty good pace.
Yeah. And then there's people who are just like, it's old. I've seen this before. I'm kind of tired of it. Like, give me something new. And I think because Bethesda, like you said, releases these games every 7-8 years, it just kind of amplifies that a little bit. But like that core is still there, where you're gonna have people that are like, I get it. I get why people like this. It's just not for me. And then other people are like, give me more. Give me another one next year. Give me another one next year. Give me another one next year. I don't care. I just want to explore Bethesda worlds. And so, yeah, it's an interesting game to analyze for sure. I'm at the end of the day, I'm happy that it's doing well. I think it's what Xbox needed. The discussion before this game came out was, on this very podcast about how important it was, how it had these. If it came out and it was another Redfall, it could have been a really bad scenario for Microsoft where they would have had to figure some shit out. But I think it's where they need to be. It's dominating Steam. It's dominating Twitch. At least for now, and we'll see if it can maintain that, because mods aren't even out yet. Once mods come out, it'll just be a whole new breath of fresh air for it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It'll this game will only get better as time goes on, and as they add their content and as mods do, and applauded. It was like you said with Redfall. The fear was that this was going to be buggy, and to hear that
they did a good job.
That it's not really buggy at all, considering everything that it's doing.
From the King Studio bugs.
Yeah. So it's one to watch. I don't know if I ever get an Xbox. I would probably play it eventually, but where are you at, John? You are in the driver's seat as far as, if your schedule was open enough. How soon would you think you'd be playing this?
I would probably wait for a sale because I don't think this is a reason for me to subscribe to Game Pass. I think this would be a reason for me to buy this game a la carte and just have it. So Black Friday, I think it's smelling like a $40 Black Friday game. And if it's at that price point, yeah, and I have the bandwidth to do it. Yeah, like you said, man, I played. Weirdly enough, Oblivion's probably my favorite Bethesda game. But Oblivion and Fallout 3 were my two. Skyrim I never beat, but I enjoyed playing around in there. So yeah, I don't know why I wouldn't like this game. I think it's just going to be a very, very stark example of, oh my God, I'm old and I'm not 17 anymore to be able to just play this game nonstop and really get through it. So, I'm having a tough time getting through Sea of Stars, man. Like, how am I supposed to do this? So, but yeah, if I get it, and as the offer always stands, man. If you want to borrow my Xbox for a little bit to check it out, and offer's always on the table.
Yeah. Well, again, this year, man, I'm a very busy man myself. So,
well, after October, you'll have some time, I think, right? Like November,
maybe by December.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Is there anything in November that you're looking forward to?
The Like a Dragon game.
Sure.
I'm keeping an eye on that one. I just have an inkling to go back to that world.
Yeah, well, you've never played a beat 'em up version of it.
No, I have
are
not
cool,
done
and you
that
like beat 'em
either.
up, so.
Yeah. So I think instead of going back with the franchise and trying to play the other
keep
bazillion
forward.
games,
Yeah.
just keep going forward from here. But also, to your point, another game that I am looking forward to playing is our next topic here, and that is Alan Wake 2.
Good segue.
It has been announced to be the IGN first, and if you're not familiar with that, every month IGN kind of promotes a game and kind of gets first looks they get all the exclusive coverage.
They call those first dibs.
Yeah,
Nick.
yeah, pretty much.
First dibs.
So they've been showing a lot of content, and I won't lie that obviously my most anticipated games coming up are Phantom Liberty and Spider-Man 2, but this is number 3. Alan Wake 2 continues to look like an amazing game, and what they featured this week was 11 minutes of gameplay. Jon and I, on this very show, have admitted how much we love Control, and this looks to be the best of both worlds. Control and Alan Wake just having a baby, and it's Alan Wake 2. This demo kind of followed Saga Anderson, the FBI agent, with her kind of touring the town at first, and they kind of go into the Mind Palace. So I was trying to remember the movie that had a Mind Palace in it too. It was a Stephen King movie with the alien, and it was in winter.
I know there's The Cell. But
That's not it. That's not it. It's
Alien and Dreamcatcher?
Dreamcatcher, yes.
Is it really
it.
the
Yeah.
shitty Morgan Freeman villain movie? Go ahead.
No, it's yes, yeah, you're right.
It
yes,
is? Okay.
yes, that is it. That features a Mind Palace.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Deep cut.
So what happens in this game is you can go. The menu is your character in a room, and in this you kind of explore all the information you've gotten so far. So you have a cork board, and you can start kind of connecting the dots. You can review like footage and files on people, and you can do this mid-conversation. And in this, she was talking with somebody and was like, why is he talking this way? So they went into their Mind Palace, kind of reviewed the information, and it got them more dialogue options. And that just looks fun. I don't know. That just looks like an awesome mechanic. And then the gameplay itself kind of looks like Control. It's kind of the same camera angle, which is just from Resident Evil. We played Resident Evil 4 earlier this year. The combat looks fun and scary and spooky. Again, this is an October game. Just, I don't know, man. I'm just
Feeling it.
I think
You're feeling it.
And I don't know if you ever get this feeling like where you kind of feel obligated to spend money on a game because maybe you don't. Because A, you like the developer, and B, you kind of don't think this game's gonna do very well. So you.
Yeah, Alan Wake is gonna be a game where you're gonna see a lot of posts that be like, "Why aren't more people playing this game?"
Yeah.
You're gonna see a lot of that. I do get that feeling. Usually with indie developers, and Remedy is one of the very last teams that's not. They're not indie, but they're a big studio, but not bought by anybody.
Right.
Out there to be purchased. So, you definitely want to support them.
Which is a shame. Well, because it'd probably be Microsoft. And
they don't. As long as they're still willing to put their games everywhere. I mean, they used to, kind of only work with Microsoft. So as long as they keep dishing stuff out, they can stay independent. But I'm probably not quite as high as you are on some of this game. I think the Mind Palace stuff does genuinely look awesome. It's creative. It's going to, if they do it well, it's going to open up a cool way to digest a narrative within a game, and set in the world of Control. I mean, that was one of that game's strongest points, was just how weird the stories got, and how there was just like, there's this podcast I listen to called the Magnus Archives, where they're like these little 15, 20-minute horror stories that aren't rooted in reality. They just get zany and weird, and I love it because it's just, I'm in, I'm out, I get a quick, quirky thing. And if this game can kind of do that, then with a horror aesthetic, which is also my jam, I'm definitely in. I do worry a little bit about the combat, is specifically what I wasn't sold on yet, because I love Control. It felt fast and freeing, where I could grab a piece of concrete off the wall with my telekinetic powers and shoot it at a guy, and I have a gun that kind of doesn't have ammo that I need to worry about. I'm just pop, 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 pop. And if Alan Wake is going to be more survival horror, Resident Evil-esque, that's cool, but I just worry that like there's going to be this maybe a little bit of an imbalance with how am I supposed to approach these enemies versus the abilities that I have, right? Like in the short gameplay we saw, there's a very fast guy, like just zipping, zapping, zooping all over the place, and like you still have the flashlight, and you're kind of it looked more Resident Evil to me than it did Control. And so I trust them. I think that they can get there. I still am probably a little bit more just on the fence, but I'm definitely wanted to check it out.
Yeah,
for
and
sure.
they've been conspicuously, obviously there's tons of time to promote the game. They haven't been showing a lot of the Alan Wake sections, like of all the demos we've seen.
Yeah.
I think the demo at Keeley's Summer Game Fest.
That was Saga too.
Yeah, that was Saga as well. So we haven't seen much. So, I mean, if you have this dual narrative going on, he could be stuck in some kind of crazy world that's, and abilities can be anything, so we don't know. And again, they did Control.
Yeah.
It's not a far step that they would do this. And speaking of Control, there's always the fact that this game will somehow bring up the Federal Bureau of Control, and could have a Jesse cameo.
Let me go to the old house.
Yeah.
Like, let me go to the old house somehow. That'd be awesome. I think this game is going to hinge a lot on how well they can thread the narrative together. I can see this game having like a couple of those holy shit moments, or like where 2/3 through the game things shift, things change. You kind of get thrown for a loop and you don't know what to expect. And the more they can do that, I think the better off they'll be. And Remedy is the kind of team that definitely can do that. So.
Yeah, and I haven't pulled the trigger on like a pre-order or anything, but
it's only $50, isn't it? Isn't it cheaper?
Yeah, it is $50. Yeah. So I think I'm probably going to do it. I mean, again, it is coming out the 27th of October, a week after Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, but you're going to crush that game, dude. We're both. I mean, well, me less so as always.
Well, your son will. You'll watch it.
Yeah, I'm gonna need you to be. Can you be co-dad for me for that week? So like, if you're getting through it and there's like, dude, like, fucking Venom bites a dude's head off. Like, you gotta let me know. Because there's a wedding we both have to go to that night, and then the next day I'm going to Cedar Point, I think, with my family. So I'm not gonna be able to get to it for a little bit.
Right.
But I'm sure that weekend do you know if you have that weekend free?
It will be.
Okay.
I'll make sure of it.
Make sure. I got games to
we'll
play.
see.
Okay.
But regardless, I'll be consuming that game very fastly. But but still, I still think I want to get Alan Wake 2 as well, and just support Remedy, support the series that I've enjoyed up to this point. And
do I need to replay or not replay because I never played it? Do I need to watch the playthrough of the first one? Do you think?
I would maybe just wiki it.
Yeah.
Or I wouldn't be surprised if in this game there was some kind of recap of what happened.
Because the first one was what, 2011, 10?
It was a long time ago.
Yeah. So they do owe it to people to be like, this is what's going on.
So I wanted to bring it because again I think
2010.
I want to focus on again Control. It was in our initial top 10 PS5 games of all time at that point, and we eventually did remove it, but still want to say like Remedy is
Nick, that list is going to get so hard. It's going to get so hard. Like we gotta add Sea of Stars probably. We gotta talk about Final Fantasy. We gotta talk about
Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
Do we have Miles on there? Is Miles on there?
I think we do.
Yeah.
But I think
he's going to get replaced.
yeah. So, no, this is again, this year in general, just holy cow. Like,
Yeah, just spooky time, man. I mean, it's October
exactly.
27th might be the absolute perfect release date for a horror game.
Sure.
You get a couple days leading into Halloween. You don't want to do it right on Halloween because then you can't, you're doing other things. A couple days before, it's very nice.
Yeah. So it'll be a good compliment as well to the vibe you're looking for in October. So looking forward to it. Wanted to highlight it, so brought it. And then on to our final topic, a returning topic. It is Baldur's Gate 3. I continue to play it. It was funny. I think I said I was kind of wishy-washy on it, right? Because the game was overwhelming.
Yep.
And I think like Friday after we recorded, I decided to put the game on easy. I'm like, I'm not dealing with this difficulty. I'm just not registering what I should be doing in combat.
Yeah.
And so the game got a lot easier. I progressed a lot further in it, and I think that Friday I was up till 4 a.m. playing it, which I don't really normally do. So,
okay.
So it's slowly getting its hooks in me. That kind of is. I've enjoyed the game much more, not stressing out about combat. So right now my in-game clock says I'm 20 hours in. I just beat Act 1. Which people have said was like 50 to 60 hours, which maybe I'm playing this game wrong. Like maybe combat encounters are supposed to take longer, or you're supposed to lose and come back to them, or play the story in a different way so the combat encounters can be easy, which I kind of experienced in that first act. Was the combat encounter had me being attacked by a bunch of guys, and then I went back and found out I can get a group of them to betray the other group, and then it was easy. So I don't know if I'm playing the game just not thinking correctly or not. And I don't think even if that is true, I don't think my brain will work where I'm just going to be like, I'm just going to butt my head against the wall, go back, try and do some story stuff to make the fight easier. I think I just want to get through it. It's like I'm in the combat encounter.
Yeah.
I want to be done with it.
It sounds like you want to play the game, but the game needs to play you. It's kind of how it seems like this game almost needs to be enjoyed. I keep hearing from every single person, it's the most accurate representation of D&D ever put to media. I guess I don't know.
So that's interesting you say that, because I did talk to a D&D player finally about it. And a lot of my problems with the game would be resolved if I was a D&D player.
Sure.
One of those things being a lot of your abilities, you have to rest. You have to do a long rest. You have to sleep overnight, and it's this whole thing. You go into your camp. And I'm going to lead this back to you, because I don't like when games do this, but they all do it because they're video games. Is like the overall story has a sense of dread, right? Like time, like, oh my God, it's the end of the world tomorrow if we don't get this done. But then
let me make this fish stew real quick.
Yeah, but then side quests are like, oh, my 10 sheep escaped. Can you collect my 10 sheep? And you're like, oh, okay. I mean, it's the end of the world, but we can put that on hold.
Yeah.
Because I want more XP. And the same thing with that, the side quest, and then just this rest mechanic. It's like I'm so terrified because this game is such a giant simulation and where anything's possible. It's like, I know there's very few games out there that like don't respect your time and are kind of like time sensitive, like Dead Rising. Like I would love that franchise 1,000 times more if they just got rid of the time mechanic.
Yeah.
It was just an open world zombie game, but they somehow thought that was like a highlight of the series. And so they stuck with it, and I just didn't like it. And then there's a famous part in Mass Effect 2 where if you don't do something right away, there are casualties because of it. But up until that point, the game really doesn't explain that to you.
Yeah.
So, or you don't have that kind of consequence earlier in the game. So I was like definitely afraid that this game is going to do this to me. So I was afraid to take these long rests. But then talking to a D&D player, he's like, yeah, after every encounter, you long rest.
Yeah. Like,
especially early in the game when you're not as powerful. Like, you're always wanting to heal up and have your best spells ready at all time. So just that common encounter, long rest. And I was like, well, my mind's blown there because I haven't been doing that. I've been kind of forcing my way to keep playing. And so, I feel like if you're a D&D player, you're probably already playing this. But if you're not a D&D player, I think the game is very obtuse in a lot of its systems.
Yeah. And that's what, I think you're kind of meant to really just take your time and embellish everything and, like, go back, do more story stuff, retry encounters, think things through. It's not really how I typically play video games. So this one is, I don't know. I would love to get to this game, but I truly don't know. Like, there's games that come out like Zelda, and Starfield's another great example where it's like, I'll get to it eventually, and I know I probably will at some point. Elden Ring was another great example. I beat it a year and a half after it came out just because I needed to find the right time to do it where I could give the game the justice it deserves. I don't know if I can do that with Baldur's Gate 3. We'll see if you can stick with it. I mean,
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I'm surprised. Like when I popped the tire at this point.
What are there, 3X, 4X?
3X.
3X.
Yeah, and the third act I hear is really overwhelming because you're in the city of Baldur's Gate, and it's just like quests everywhere. And the wrap of so many quests leading up to that point, too. So it's just like, people say just relax when you get there and just knock it out one by one. But so far, the story, again, is getting better. The companions are getting better as they get more fleshed out and you talk to them more. There are some really good companions in this game, like hands down.
Are you happy with your bard choice?
Yeah. That's working out well as far as conversation, and then the bard is getting just better ability-wise. Like that long rest I talked about, I can just play a song and I get that effect.
Oh, okay.
So, like, I don't have to go back to camp and do all the stuff there. I can just play this song and I get the same.
Hear ye, listen to my song.
Yeah. The story has been kind of told through like little small vignettes of like this versus that, and they've been kind of black and white. It's like if I'm the evil playthrough, I'm going this way. I'm the good playthrough, I'm choosing this one, and it's kind of there's not that nuance that I like from like The Witcher. Yeah. But it's still good, and his name has been mentioned. J.K. Simmons' character. I have not met him, but his name has been mentioned. So I know he's one of the 3 big bads of the game. So.
Oh, he's a bad guy, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
I was kind of picturing just Cave Johnson again in Baldur's Gate.
He's talked about so far as a bad guy.
Yeah.
If he's a bad guy, I don't know yet because, like I said, I haven't met him yet. But so I really want a really good antagonist, and I really want the story to kind of pick up and be a little more nuanced. That being said, I also kind of interested in what an evil playthrough would be like in this game, where I'm always siding with the evil side and doing all the evil things. But
that's this game loves to flaunt how anything's possible all the different times. Like, I feel like the reason I never like to do Renegade run-throughs is because I feel like I'm gonna miss out on some of the best abilities or the best because like I have to help people, right? That's what I do. Right. I'm an RPG, but I feel like I trust this game to be like, this is just as valid in every way.
Right.
You just got to be okay with being a bad boy.
Right. So I'm hoping that that the story kind of hooks me more. The grander story. It's been kind of a bunch of teases and then these little vignettes but
I kind of hope you get like you start to love it like middle of Act 2, end of Act 2, and it's like September 24th, and you're like, oh God, I have to play Cyberpunk though.
That for sure will be a conversation.
Yeah.
Especially because it seems like they're gonna launch this 2.0 update even before that,
which is sweet for me.
Yeah.
But also horrible because I'm
you're a little
trying to play other things.
Yeah. We'll probably talk about it next week, but they have a special showcase for Phantom Liberty coming up on September 14th, where they're gonna have special announcements.
They're probably just gonna shadow drop it.
I believe that is exactly what it's gonna happen. Is that because it's too close?
Why else have it that day?
Yeah, the 26th is so close that, so that'll be exciting. So, but yeah, that's my time with Baldur's Gate 3 so far. I don't think I have any really like funny stories.
Did you fuck a bear yet?
No fucking yet. It is funny though in the game when you start to flirt with anybody, that kind of like a natural like party, like you're always traveling together. Everyone starts talking to you about it. They're like, oh, I saw you over there talking to Gail over there. What's going on over there? Or Carlac, I saw you talking over there. This is something going on. And you're like, get out of my business.
Yeah.
But then you're like, well, we're around each other all the time. And in the camp, like that's just natural. And I think that it works really effective.
Yeah.
That people are commenting on the little side conversations that you're having with other people. So
knowing the extremely limited knowledge I know about coding, I just can't I can't fucking picture like the level of code where it's like, okay, well, if you've had 7 conversations with this person, then these 6 people need to interact. It's like I can't, like, for a 150-hour game that you only see 25% of the whole game through in that 150 hours. It's just I can't.
Yeah, you could have a conversation with somebody and turn around and talk to one of your party members, and they'll reference what you just did, and I'm just like, oh my god,
geniuses.
Yeah, how many lines of dialogue were recorded for this game?
It's unbelievable.
But all right, that's it. Oh wait, we have one surprise topic.
Oh god. What?
Jon. It's your 2B section. We got to talk about 2B.
Okay, I love 2B. Let's do it.
All right, lead us, because you said you wanted to bring this every week.
Oh, God. 2B, okay. Well, we talked about it this morning, Nick. So what would be the best franchise or series to have a 2B crossover?
That hasn't had one already.
Yeah, what are we going with? Where can we see more of that?
I mean, she's a third person fighting, so that Devil May Cry for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. That's the correct answer. You've done. No, I mean, Devil May Cry would be awesome, and this conversation we had this morning, like, I'm still in love with the idea of a Bayonetta 2B Dante game where you can switch between the 3 of them. That would be so fucking sweet. I don't know how you can make that work narratively, but you could make Dante and Bayonetta work probably narratively. But so is this really just me? I can gush about 2B for.
I can
hold you captive and hostage. No, 2B needs more justice than that.
It just needs a sequel, I think, is where you're getting at.
Yeah, Yoko Taro needs to let me know what he's doing. I mean, he's been making these weird little card games that just aren't scratching that itch. So hopefully he's working on his like magnum opus. Like, I got to figure out a way to tie this 25,000-year story together.
I would think like they would give him money to do it. That character is so popular. Like no joke, she is crossovering with so many things. I don't even remember this. I don't even know this free-to-play game that the current crossover is. But
I don't know.
But I see ads for
something.
it. Yeah, yeah, but I see ads for it.
Naraka Blade Point.
Yeah, but hopefully you have a legit reason to talk about 2B someday.
All right. Well, now that I know that you are going to honor my request, I will be prepared.
Yeah,
I'll be prepared. I mean. We can talk about her relationship with 9S. We can talk about does it really mean?
Eyes are glazing over.
Is there a difference between androids and machines? Is there, did she do the right thing to try and, there's many ways we can take this.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Welcome. Tune in next week for the 2B podcast.
Yeah, that's the name of it. That's how we're renaming it too.
2B or not 2B?
So yeah, a 2B fan cast. We probably would get more listeners.
Yeah. I don't know if they're the type of people you want listening, but it'd be more me.
It'd have to be a video podcast because we have to review artwork of her and cosplay of her, and then talk about.
Next time we show up on video, Nick, if you buy it for me, I'll wear a 2B costume.
Okay. All right, deal.
Oh, man.
All right, so that's it. Again, short week, but we still gave you quite a meaty podcast. Do we have anything to tease for next week, Jon? You need to play video games. That's number one.
Yep. Yeah, I need. I have my ups and downs. I'm in a down, so hopefully, my son my boy. He just started school. He just started school again, so it's a lot of, not getting to see him very much. So making sure I'm spending the time with him. But I would love to get. What I need to do is just have one of those random days where I take off work and I just don't tell anybody and just go play video games for 7 hours straight. But no, more Sea of Stars for me. I'll think about 2B to make sure I can give her justice next week. And go fucking watch Across the Spider-Verse if you haven't yet.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, that movie is something special.
Yeah, so good.
And a perfect compliment to Spider-Man 2. So you want to at least satiate your Spider-Man 2 appetite for a little bit. Across the Spider-Verse does a very good job of that.
Yes.
And again, I'm curious if there will be any spillover into the Insomniac Spider-Man as far as ideas, multiverse.
Well,
that's the Spider-Man 2 Spider-Man maybe showing up in the third movie. Who knows?
I could see a post-credit scene of Spider-Man 2, and you hear that Miguel O'Hara theme from Across the Spider-Verse, like wow, you know, like that thing, a portal opens up, and I could see something.
Or even when Spider-Man 2's out and this third movie finally comes out, is there going to be some DLC tie-in? I guarantee you there probably will be.
I mean, it'd kind of be silly not to. Straight up, I don't think Spider-Man's ever been more popular than he is right now, which is kind of a wild thing to say, but he's on top of the world, man. Capitalize.
Yep, exactly. So, all right, see you stars for Jon on my front.
Hopefully.
Yeah. And again, more Baldur's Gate 3. I want to continue to chug through it. We will get we're still a PlayStation podcast, and we'll have the PlayStation Plus extra games announced and premium games announced by next podcast. Maybe we'll highlight a few of those.
There's a rumor.
It's rumored to be very Japanese heavy, including Nier Replicant and 13 Sentinels. We can talk about those games if that is indeed come true. It wouldn't be bad to revisit those games, especially 13 Sentinels we played.
Do you remember? I was actually thinking about this the other day. Do you remember any plot points from that game? I don't remember much.
Yeah, it's definitely very confusing, but it'd be fun. I mean, you read a Wikipedia page, you'd be caught up. It'd be fun to revisit that game because it is very good, and we both have the platinum in it. So that might happen. And
and I remember nothing.
And then again, there might be some. If Cyberpunk 2.0 is Shadow Drop, that will be for sure something I will be bringing. I will be talking about that. Yeah. So a lot to look forward to, and more to be, of course.
Well, of course.
If you have any questions for Jon about 2B, please submit them at PlayStationPaddlespod@gmail.com. He would happily answer them. So
I don't know if I want my life to become answering 2B questions on the internet. I don't know if I want that, but I'll happily do it if you want to.
Sure. He'll respond as he hugs his 2B body pillow that he has at home.
I'm gonna be hugging myself. I'm gonna be wearing the costume that you buy me. I'm so pretty.
But all right, so we will be back again next week with those things. So for the song, we're going to continue on our Baldur's Gate 3 listen as I continue to discover more and more music. And shout out to Sea of Stars. Can you please put your soundtrack out there? Final Fantasy 16. Can you please put your soundtrack out there?
They haven't done that yet? What are you doing?
So we can feature more of your songs. Those are both amazing soundtracks, but we can't feature them because they're not out officially on any of the streaming services yet. So in lieu of that, we're going back to Baldur's Gate. This one is called Twisted Force, again by our friend Borislav Slavov, who did the entire soundtrack.
This is a funny name.
Jon and names, he turns them into a giggly little schoolgirl.
Borislav Slaslav? Come on.
At least it's not, what is his name, Olivier de Riviere or whatever from Plague Tale.
Yeah. Come on, funny names are great. I'm not trying to be mean, but they're fun.
Yeah. If you ever want to make Jon giggle like a schoolgirl, it'll be someone's real name. So.
His last name was Annoyed. That's so funny. Mr. Annoyed. How is that not amazing?
But all right, we will be back next week with 6 more things, or up to 6 more things. I'm sorry, possibly 6 more things, but we'll of course be back next week with some things. Enjoy the music, and thank you for listening. Bye, guys.
See ya.
Domina nada, vida